To be good at motocross, you had to be fearless and you had to have guts. I was all into that. You know, I was the faster the better, the higher the jumps the better.
G.L. Woods loved everything about motocross, the thrill, the excitement, and the danger.
My number plate on my motorcycle was 911, and I always told the guys that I rode with, don't try to keep up unless you're prepared to call 911. If you had stitches or, you know, unfortunately had some broken bones, that was just part of the cost. It was no different than buying boots and helmets and equipment. And I always used to say was, you know, if you're not crashing every once in a while, you're not riding fast enough. I felt invincible.
The damage to his body did nothing to curb his passion.
Broke my back in 4 places. At 18 years old, you know, I healed pretty quick. And I think that was kind of a bad thing because I'd actually gone through one of the worst accidents that I would go through, and I recovered fine from it. So it almost gave me even a farther sense of invincibility.
As a teenager, G.L. professed his faith in Christ. But as he got older, his priorities were on other things.
I was too busy for God. I was too busy for that relationship, and I knew he was who he was, but I just didn't take time to really understand him.
Eventually, he married Tina, and they had 2 children. He also became a successful financial planner. And even now, in his late 30s, G.L. was still riding motocross bikes and still feeling invincible.
The year that my twins were born, I actually broke both of my shin bones and stuck them out of the skin. But even that, you know, a little surgery, some pins and rods and screws, and I was back on the bike again. So it didn't scare me, and I wished it would have.
Now, making money and motocross were the only things that mattered.
I knew there were parts of my life that were not pleasing to God. I'd kind of convinced myself that that was okay, because I would just make sure, you know, that someday, before I died, I would change. You know, I would reconcile with God. I'll make things right.
G.L. almost didn't get that chance. In 2004, he was riding with a friend in the coal mining country of West Virginia.
I came around this corner. I realized that there were a couple of people that were on ATVs. They were coming out of the mountain, and I was going up into the mountain. So we were going in opposite directions. In all the commotion, trying to get stopped, I got sent over the handlebars.
The next few moments were a blur.
It happened so fast, but yet everything was in slow motion. When I came to a stop, I was on my back and I was staring up into the air, and I couldn't catch my breath. At that moment, I panicked because I realized that I hadn't knocked the wind out of myself at all. I just paralyzed myself.
While others went for help, G.L. lay helpless on the ground.
I call that my moment of truth, because, you know, at that very moment, I didn't have one single thought about how big my house was, you know, or the amount of money I had in the bank, or what I had parked in the driveway. Laying on the ground, the only thing I wanted to do was play with my kids.
When G.L. finally got to a hospital, he called his wife.
You know, I kept thinking, once I see him, you know, maybe it's not true. I didn't want to face the fact that he would be a quadriplegic.
His doctors then told him the prognosis was bleak.
The doctor came into my room. I asked him, you know, how long am I going to be paralyzed? And he said, Mr. Woods, I'm sorry. I don't think you understand. There's nothing we can do for you. That, to me, that was final. I knew I'd actually done the unthinkable. I'd actually, here where I lived a life that of the 911 mentality. All of a sudden, that mentality came reality. And I realized, you know, I'm not invincible.
G.L. was sent to a rehabilitation hospital. Tina and other family members prayed for him to recover, but the odds were still not good.
Luke 18:14 says, you know, for he who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. And I spent most of my life exalting myself. And going to that facility was the most humbling experience of my life, having to count on total strangers to do everything. I thought, I can't do this. I'm not prepared. I'm not strong enough for this.
G.L. was ready to give up and began asking God to let him die. About that time, a friend's dad came to visit him. He asked G.L. some tough questions.
What he asked me was, if God would have decided to end your life that day, would you have at least been ready? And I thought, I don't know. And he goes, let me tell you something, boy. If the answer to that question is, I don't know, that's no. See, I'd spent all my life thinking, I got plenty of time. I'll change, I'll reconcile with God when I get around to it. And that ridiculous thinking not only just about cost me my physical life, it could have easily cost me my eternal life.
After that visit, GL cried out to God.
I don't know how to describe it. I just remember feeling comfort. But I just remember feeling that however it's going to be, it'll be okay. I'll be able to handle it. And that was my turning point. Because I started going around, I started having a totally different outlook. I finally decided I wanted to make it. I'm gonna get back some way to be the husband of my wife that she needed. I want to get back some way to be the dad to my kids that they needed. I was gonna fight. One of the therapists said, while you're here with us, we'd like to get you to set some goals. What would you like to accomplish while you're here? And I thought, I want to walk again. And she said, whoa. Let's not get carried away here,
Then, to the surprise of his caretakers, GL began to improve.
I was laying in bed one night, and all of a sudden, one of my fingers went like this. And so time went from this to this to this, and things started happening. And they were amazed.
6 months after the accident, GL took his first steps. GL wrote about the accident and his journey of faith in his book, Faith 911. He also speaks to men's groups around the country. And even though he now walks with a slight limp, he knows that God is in control of his life.
Don't wait till it's too late. Don't take time that you think you have, because you don't know. Think you can be given a second chance and do nothing with it. Or you can be given a second chance and actually do something with it. I think it's important that we take our knowledge of Him, take our love of Him, and do something with it. I don't understand why God's done for me what He's done, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving to Him that He made a good decision.